This is the Healthcare Marketplace Specialization, Healthcare Marketplace Overview. And this is Module 1.1.3, Healthcare Quality Trends. So when we think about healthcare quality, it's important to understand that it really is just one part, quality it is, of the healthcare triangle. And the triangle has a set of other factors. There's healthcare costs and access, meaning can I get to services when I need to get the services if they're very essential. So when we think of what quality is in a much more precise way, it is defined as the degree to which health services for individuals and populations increase the likelihood of desired health outcomes and are consistent with current professional knowledge. This is from the Institute of Medicine, which is part of the Academy of Sciences. And another way to look at that, which is a little more aggressive, from the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, otherwise known, you'll see the acronym every once in a while, as AHRQ. Doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, for the right person, and having the best results possible. It really is like a college cheer, but very important. You really don't want to be in a receiving end of poor quality, of course. So there is also a distinction between clinical quality and consumer satisfaction. Clinical quality is something you can actually measure and see that health outcomes have truly improved by looking at a clinical test. Consumer satisfaction is sort of asking you, hey, do you feel better about this or not? And part of the problem is with consumer satisfaction, a lot of factors go into that. It just might be that you feel respected in the healthcare setting, and that's important, obviously, but it may not mean that you're actually getting better when your care is being rendered. Another thing about quality that's kind of key is you'll hear potentially these terms structure, process, and outcomes. Structure is really a checklist. You just sort of, do I have a hospital? Do I have a bed? Do I have electric power? It's really basic stuff. Process is more looking at getting recommended services. So am I getting immunizations for my kids? Yes, no, or all those things coming together. And outcomes is really the real deal, where it's, did I get better or did I not die? And that is actually a much, much, much harder thing to measure because, again, to get to those true clinical quality measures, you really need to have some pretty robust tools. Access is defined as an individual's ability to obtain medical services on a timely and financially acceptable basis. This is from Jonas and Kovner, a really famous textbook on healthcare marketplace issues. The influences go into this in terms of the availability of that facility and whether you can get to it. So I live in Minnesota. I live in the Twin Cities. It's sometimes referred to as Heat Island because when you get out of it in the winter, it's really cold. It's cold. It's cold when it's -10 in Minnesota, Minneapolis as well. But the idea being that if you're really in outstate Minnesota or the Dakotas, getting to a facility is a real challenge, and just the transportation logistics can be part of that access issue. There's also hours of operation. Is the ER open when you need it to be? And then one of the most important issues is ability to pay. If you if you can't get to some place where you need to have financial resources to get in, that's going to obviously affect your access to care. So when we think about this notion of a healthcare triangle, the big issue is that we're looking at trade-offs. So, for example, if we are focused on, say, reducing healthcare costs, we can do that. But what that'll probably mean is that there will be basically also decreases in access and maybe decreases in quality too. People won't get necessarily all the resources that they need. You might start rationing care, say for cancer services. For access, there's going to be decisions about whether you get that piece or not. On the other hand, if you say, okay, quality is going to be the focus, then we're going to try to make quality go as high as we possibly can. Again, it's going to be a trade-off against access. That means maybe who doesn't get necessarily that care, costs could go through the roof, and that could be a huge issue. Finally, with access, the thought is let's get everybody access. Everyone should get whatever they need whenever they need it. That could happen, but quality could take a hit and costs could go through the roof as well. And so really, that's one reason why health economics play such a major role in this discussion of healthcare markets, because implicitly economics involves the trade-off of scarce resources, and there's no better industry to many times illustrate that than the medical industry. So our takeaway points here are that there are many stakeholders in the U.S. system, each with its own interests and incentives. There's lots of cost segments across all these times. Sometimes they're market-based. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes there's regulatory functions. There are many expensive conditions to treat care, chronic care, sometimes acute issues of cancer and such. And there's always going to be trade-offs between cost, quality, and access. So here's a discussion question of that marketplace slide that we showed in the beginning. Name 3 agents other than patients in the healthcare marketplace that are likely to be affected significantly by any current healthcare reform bills in the House or Senate coming through. You might say, well, no, we already have ACA. Well, as we've discussed before, it's a long arc of history here that we've been doing health reform, and the reality is that not everybody is covered. So if we look to the 2016 presidential election, candidate Bernie Sanders is proposing a single-payer system, really boldly proposing a single-payer system in a way that probably no one has done before. He is a senator. He probably won't get all the votes, but it is a proposal that potentially can be floated as the Senate with him as the lead. And I guess one of the questions is, if we think those agents are going to be significantly affected, are they the same agents consistently? And if the agents are the same, what are their differences in policy prescriptions? Meaning, how might some agents, physicians, hospitals, employers think about basically policy prescriptions differently? There's no right answer or wrong answer. We welcome your comments. This concludes this module for the healthcare marketplace specialization.